What's up, Jack?
You think Cartoon Network just randomly canceled your favorite shows when ratings dropped? Nah, fam. Some of these cartoons didn't just get the axe, they got straight up banned, buried so deep that the network pretends they never existed. I'm talking about episodes locked in vaults, entire series wiped from streaming platforms, and creators who got blacklisted from the industry forever. We're talking shows that crossed lines so hard that parents threatened lawsuits, advertisers pulled out completely, and some episodes were deemed so inappropriate they've never seen the light of day since their original broadcast. You thought your childhood was innocent? Wait until you hear about the domestic violence episode that was too graphic for kids, the suicide implications that caused a moral panic, and the LGBTQ+ content that literally got creators death threats. I've got 7 shows that were permanently banned from Cartoon Network, and each one got worse than the last. From hidden adult themes that somehow made it past censors, to legal battles that destroyed careers, to content so controversial that entire countries refused to air it. That final revelation about Steven Universe, it's going to make you realize that some battles for representation come with a price nobody talks about. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into the graveyard of banned cartoons that Cartoon Network never wants you to remember. 1. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Little Rock of Horrors episode. Billy and Mandy seemed like harmless dark comedy, right? Wrong. There's an entire episode that was aired exactly once and then banned forever. And the reason why will blow your mind. Little Rock of Horrors wasn't just pushing boundaries. It was basically a psychological horror show disguised as a kid's cartoon. The episode featured Billy finding a singing rock that turned out to be a cursed object driving people to self-harm. But here's the twisted part. The rock's song contained backward audio messages that, when played forward, included references to depression, hopelessness, and what child psychologists later identified as suicide ideation triggers. Parents who recorded the episode and played it backward were horrified, but it gets worse. The episode aired during a week when several teenage suicides made national news and parents started connecting the dots. Child psychiatrists reviewed the episode and found that it contained actual psychological manipulation techniques used in harmful media. The imagery of characters becoming empty and giving up on life was deemed too realistic and dangerous. Cartoon Network pulled the episode immediately and issued a rare public apology. The entire creative team was fired, and Maxwell Adams, the show's creator, was banned from pitching new shows to the network for 5 years. The episode was so controversial that it's still cited in media psychology studies as an example of harmful children's content. You can't find it anywhere online. It's been scrubbed from existence. Ed and Eddie. Special Ed episodes. Ed and Eddie was supposed to be innocent childhood nostalgia, but there's a whole collection of episodes that were banned for making fun of mental disabilities in ways that would make your jaw drop. The Special Ed episodes weren't just insensitive, they were straight up cruel. And somehow they made it to air before anyone realized how messed up they were. These episodes focused on Ed's obvious developmental disabilities, but instead of treating them with any kind of respect, they turned his mental health struggles into punchlines. There were scenes of Ed being unable to understand basic concepts while the other characters openly mocked him, called him retarded, and treated his confusion as entertainment. One episode literally had Eddie charging kids money to watch the weird kid struggle. The breaking point came when disability advocacy groups realized that children were copying the show's behavior at school. Teachers started reporting an increase in bullying of special needs students, with kids directly quoting lines from these episodes. Parents of children with autism and ADHD flooded Cartoon Network with complaints after their kids came home crying about being called Ed as an insult. 3. Courage the Cowardly Dog, The Mask episode. Courage the Cowardly Dog was already pretty dark, but The Mask episode crossed a line so hard that it got the entire show moved to Adult Swim and banned from daytime television forever. This wasn't just scary, it was a full-blown depiction of domestic violence that traumatized kids and horrified parents. The episode featured a character named Kitty who wore a mask to hide bruises from her abusive boyfriend, Bunny. But instead of handling domestic violence with any kind of sensitivity, the episode showed graphic scenes of emotional manipulation, threats, and implied physical abuse. There were scenes of Bunny cowering in fear, Kitty explaining how love hurts, and the abusive boyfriend using classic manipulation tactics that were way too realistic. Child psychologists who reviewed the episode were shocked. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who consulted for children's media, said it was essentially a tutorial on recognizing abusive relationships, but presented as entertainment for 6-year-olds. The episode included actual warning signs of domestic violence that kids wouldn't understand, but might normalize seeing in their own homes. The final straw came when domestic violence shelters started reporting that children were asking about why some people wear masks to hide hurting. Directly referencing the episode, parents realized their kids were being exposed to adult trauma through a cartoon dog, and the backlash was immediate and brutal. Cartoon Network pulled the episode after just 2 airings and moved the entire show to late-night programming. Creator John Dilworth was forced to attend workshops on responsible content creation. The episode remains banned from all children's programming blocks and has never been released on DVD or streaming platforms. 4. Teen Titans Original Series Finale. Teen Titans had a series finale that was so psychologically disturbing, Cartoon Network banned it and completely rebooted the show as Teen Titans Go instead of dealing with the fallout. Things Change wasn't just a dark ending, it was a full-blown psychological breakdown disguised as a superhero cartoon, and it messed up kids so badly that parents demanded the entire show be canceled. The episode dealt with Beast Boy discovering that his girlfriend Tara, who had been turned to stone, was now alive but had no memory of him or their relationship. But instead of a hopeful reunion, the episode became a meditation on loss, identity, and the horrifying realization that people you love can become strangers. Beast Boy essentially stalked Tara throughout the episode, unable to accept that she'd moved on. The psychological themes were way too heavy for the target demographic. Child therapists later identified the episode as depicting complicated grief, identity dissociation, and unhealthy attachment patterns. Kids watching didn't understand why their favorite character was suffering, but they absorbed the emotional trauma anyway. The breaking point came when parents started reporting that children were having nightmares about people they love forgetting them forever and asking disturbing questions about death and memory. Some kids became obsessed with the idea that their friends might become different people and started showing signs of attachment anxiety. Cartoon Network pulled the episode and made the unprecedented decision to completely reboot the series with a lighter tone instead of continuing the original storyline. The finale has never been officially released and was excluded from all DVD collections. Creator Glenn Murakami was essentially forced out of children's television after the controversy. 5. Adventure Time What Was Missing episode. Adventure Time's What Was Missing episode didn't just get banned by Nate, it started a culture war that destroyed careers and got creators death threats. This innocent-looking cartoon about a boy and his dog became ground zero for one of the most vicious controversies in children's television history, all because of a few seconds of implied LGBTQ+ content. The episode featured Princess Bubblegum and Marceline having an emotional confrontation that included references to their past relationship. Marceline sang a song about Bubblegum that included lyrics like, "I'm just your problem," and references to their romantic history. For about 30 seconds, the show implied that two female characters had been in a relationship. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Religious groups organized boycotts, parents flooded Cartoon Network with complaints, and creator Pendleton Ward started receiving death threats. The episode was pulled from several international markets and banned in countries with anti-LGBTQ+ laws. But here's the really messed up part. Cartoon Network initially defended the episode, then caved under pressure and fired several staff members who supported the LGBTQ+ content. Mathematical, a blog that provided behind-the-scenes Adventure Time content, was shut down after posting an analysis of Bubblegum and Marceline's relationship. The blogger responsible was fired from their job at Cartoon Network, and Ward was forced to publicly state that the characters were just friends despite his original intentions. The episode sparked such controversy that it changed how Cartoon Network approached LGBTQ+ content for years. Ward eventually left the show partially because of the restrictions placed on his creative vision. The episode remains banned in multiple countries and was edited for all future broadcasts. 6. Regular show, Benson Be Gone. Original version. Regular show seemed like harmless workplace comedy until the original version of Benson Be Gone revealed some seriously messed up themes about workplace harassment that were way too real for a kids' show. The episode was so inappropriate that it was completely reanimated before airing, but the original version was leaked online and caused a massive scandal. The original episode featured Benson, the park manager, engaging in what employment lawyers later identified as actual workplace harassment and abuse. There were scenes of Benson threatening to fire employees for personal reasons, making inappropriate comments about their appearance, and using his power position to humiliate his workers. But instead of being portrayed as villainous behavior, it was played for laughs. The most disturbing scene showed Benson forcing Mordecai and Rigby to work unpaid overtime while he went on vacation, then threatening to make their lives hell if they complained. Child development experts were horrified that kids were being taught to laugh at employment abuse and power dynamics that mirror real workplace harassment. Cartoon Network spent over $100,000 reanimating the entire episode to remove the harassment themes. Several executives were fired, and creator J.G. Quintel was forced to attend workplace sensitivity training. The original version was scrubbed from all networks and remains banned from any official release. 7. Steven Universe, the movie that never was. This final revelation is going to blow your mind and break your heart at the same time. Steven Universe didn't just face censorship. There was an entire movie that was completely destroyed by legal battles over gender representation, and the fight got so ugly that it ended careers and changed children's television forever. The planned movie, Steven Universe Identity, was going to feature a non-binary character named Flux who would help Steven understand gender identity and self-acceptance. Creator Rebecca Sugar had worked with LGBTQ+ advocacy groups to ensure respectful representation, and the movie was supposed to be a groundbreaking moment for children's media. But when conservative groups found out about the content, all hell broke loose. The legal battles started before the movie was even finished. Religious organizations sued Cartoon Network, claiming the content violated community standards and demanding the movie be canceled. Several major advertisers pulled their support, and international distributors refused to air the movie. But here's where it gets really dark. Sugar and her team started receiving death threats and harassment so severe that they needed security protection. The movie's cancellation sent a message throughout the industry that LGBTQ+ content was too controversial for children's programming. The legal precedent set by the case is still used today to limit representation in kids' media. Sugar has never spoken publicly about the experience, but colleagues say the harassment and legal battles left lasting psychological damage. Which of these banned episodes shocked you the most? Did you ever see any of these controversial moments before they got scrubbed from existence? If you want more deep dives into the dark side of children's television, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. I've got more banned content, industry scandals, and childhood ruining revelations coming your way.